I still remember the way that bus pulled away. The doors folded shut with a sharp hiss, and through the glass I saw the driver glance at me for half a second before pressing the gas. I ran the last few steps anyway, my hand stretched out, my heart pounding, my breath burning in my chest. But it was too late. The bus rolled into traffic and disappeared down Main Street, leaving me standing there with nothing but frustration, and no idea that my whole life was about to change. Before I tell you what happened next, take a second to hit subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Here on your channel name, we believe small stories can carry big lessons. And today's story is one I'll never forget. It was a Tuesday morning in early October. The kind of crisp fall day when the air feels clean and everything looks a little sharper. I was living in a small town just outside Chicago, working a job I didn't love but needed. I had an interview downtown for a better position, better pay, better hours, and maybe a chance to finally breathe again. But I overslept. My alarm didn't go off, or maybe I shut it off without remembering. Either way, I rushed out of my apartment half-dressed, tie in one hand, coffee in the other, hoping I could still make it. I couldn't. So there I was, watching my opportunity roll away in a cloud of exhaust. I checked the bus schedule on my phone. The next one wouldn't come for another 40 minutes. My interview was in an hour. Downtown traffic at that time? There was no way I'd make it. I sat down on the cold metal bench at the bus stop and dropped my face into my hands. I felt defeated. Not just because of the interview, but because it felt like a pattern. I was always a step behind. Always just missing something. Rough morning? The voice caught me off guard. I looked up and saw her standing a few feet away. She had long blonde hair pulled over one shoulder and wore a simple black dress under a light gray coat. She looked like she was headed somewhere important too. But what stood out wasn't her clothes, it was her smile. It was warm. Real. I missed my bus, I said, trying to laugh it off. And probably my job interview. She glanced down the road and then back at me. Downtown? Yeah. She nodded slowly. I'm heading that way. I was going to call a rideshare anyway. Want to split it? I blinked. Really? Sure, she said with a shrug. No one deserves to have their day ruined before 9 a.m. It was such a small thing. A simple offer. But in that moment, it felt huge. We ordered the ride, and within minutes we were sitting side by side in the back seat of a compact sedan, the city skyline growing larger in the distance. Her name was Emily. She worked for a non-profit organization that helped families find affordable housing. She was on her way to a meeting with a local sponsor. She spoke about her work with quiet passion, the kind that doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. I told her about my interview. About how I felt stuck. About how I wanted something more stable, something that felt meaningful. You'll get there, she said gently. Sometimes the road just takes a few unexpected turns. I smiled. Like missing your bus? She laughed. Exactly like missing your bus. When we arrived downtown, she refused to let me pay more than half, even though she had arranged the ride. Text me later, she said as she handed me her number. Let me know how it goes. And then she disappeared into the crowd. I made it to my interview with 5 minutes to spare. My heart was still racing, but I felt strangely calm. Maybe it was the conversation. Maybe it was knowing a stranger had believed my day wasn't ruined. The interview went better than I expected. I walked out feeling hopeful. That night, I texted her. It went well, I wrote. Thanks to you. She replied almost immediately. See? Missing the bus wasn't the end of the world. We started talking more after that. First about work. Then about life. Childhood memories. Favorite movies. Family traditions. A week later, we met for coffee. Then dinner. Then a walk by the lake where the wind tangled her hair and she laughed at how serious I looked when I talked about my future. I got the job 2 weeks later. And I took her out to celebrate. But here's the thing, our story isn't just about romance. It's about what happened 3 months later. It was late December. Snow covered the sidewalks, and Christmas lights glowed from every porch in my neighborhood. Emily and I were leaving a grocery store one evening when we saw an older man struggling with his bags near the parking lot. One of his plastic bags had split open, and oranges rolled across the icy pavement. People walked past him. Some glanced over. Most didn't. Without hesitation, Emily handed me her keys and hurried over. "Here, let me help you," she said, kneeling down carefully on the cold ground to gather the fruit. I followed her lead. Together, we picked up the oranges and repacked his groceries. The man's hands were shaking, not just from the cold. "Thank you," he said quietly. "My wife's at home. She's not well. I didn't want to leave her long." Emily's expression softened. "Let's carry these to your car." As we walked with him, he told us about his wife's illness. About how they'd been married for 43 years. About how he never thought grocery shopping would feel like climbing a mountain. When we reached his car, Emily gently squeezed his arm. "You're doing a great job," she said. He looked at her like she'd handed him something priceless. On the drive home, I asked her why she always stepped in like that. She looked out the window at the falling snow before answering. "Because you never know when someone's at their breaking point," she said. "And sometimes, all it takes is one small act to remind them they're not alone." Her words stayed with me. A few weeks later, I found myself in a similar moment. I was at a coffee shop before work when I noticed a woman at the counter fumbling through her purse. She looked embarrassed. Stressed. "I'm sorry," she told the barista. "I thought I had my card." There was a line forming behind her. People were shifting impatiently. Before I could second-guess myself, I stepped forward. "I've got it," I said. She turned, surprised. "Oh, I couldn't." "It's okay," I smiled. "We all miss our bus sometimes." She didn't understand the reference. But she didn't need to. Her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. It was just a cup of coffee. $4 and some change." But I could see the relief wash over her face. And in that moment, I understood something. Kindness isn't about grand gestures. It's about paying attention. It's about noticing the person who feels invisible. The one who's carrying more than groceries. The one who thinks their bad day defines them. A year after I missed that bus, Emily and I stood at that same stop again. This time, it was on purpose. I had a small velvet box in my coat pocket and a speech I'd practiced 100 times. The air was just as crisp as it had been the day we met. "You know," I said, looking down the road, "I used to think missing that bus was the worst timing of my life." She smiled. "And now?" "Now I think it was the best thing that ever happened to me." I knelt down on one knee right there on the sidewalk. A few people nearby slowed down, curious. "Emily," I said, my voice shaking, "you taught me that kindness changes everything. You changed everything. Will you marry me?" Her answer came through happy tears. "Yes." Today, whenever life doesn't go as planned, I remember that morning. I remember the hiss of the bus doors. The feeling of being left behind. And I remember the stranger who chose to be kind. We live in a world that moves fast. People are busy. Distracted. Tired. But kindness doesn't require extra time. It just requires intention. It's offering a ride. It's picking up someone's groceries. It's buying a coffee. It's believing that a small moment can turn into something bigger than you ever imagined. If I hadn't missed that bus, I would have made it to my interview early. I would have sat alone, scrolled through my phone, and gone home to the same routine. Instead, I found a partner. A new job. A new perspective. All because someone decided my bad morning mattered. So the next time you see someone running toward a closed door, or sitting alone on a bench with their head in their hands, remember this story. Maybe you can't change their whole life. But maybe you can change their day. And sometimes, that's where the best stories begin. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs a reminder that kindness still exists. Let's make the world a little warmer, one small act at a time. Because you never know. The bus you missed today might be the beginning of something beautiful tomorrow.